Joining us now is Republican 5th District Congressman from the good state of Virginia, Representative Robert Hurt. Sir, great to have you with us.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Oh, so much of a pleasure. And, boy, a lot going on right now. Your timing, as they say, is impeccable. And if we could start with the potential budget plan that's going down in the House. I know this week you're going to be voting on the Require a Plan Act. Congressman, there's a lot of concern out there that we're not really doing anything to attack this deficit. A lot of people like myself have very little confidence right now in President Obama or the liberals that they're actually serious about our economic situation. We just saw the fourth quarter to 2012 where the economy contracted. What's the Republicans' plan here?
Well, I can speak for myself in saying this. I just came off of a week back in the district where it was a district work week that we have on a regular basis, about once a month. We get back to the district and travel around the district, and the things that I heard, despite what you see on the television about the gun control issue and the immigration issue, which are important issues, but despite how much air those subjects are taking up right now, the people that I talk to are still very, very concerned about the economy and about spending in Washington, D.C. And we're borrowing 40 cents on every dollar we spend. We've borrowed $16 trillion. The economy, as you said, in the fourth quarter contracted for the first time in more than 3 years. And we had unemployment numbers on Friday that showed that take us from 7.8% to 7.9%. There are places in my district, which runs from the North Carolina line all the way to Fauquier County. There are places in my district where we still have 15% unemployment. So the economy and fiscal responsibility in Washington are key on people's minds. And so you look back over the last 2 years that I've been in office. I was only elected, this is my second term, beginning my second term. And you look back over the last 2 years, and you really see a president, and you see Harry Reid in the Senate. You see a group of people who really do not take seriously deficit reduction and do not take seriously debt elimination and balanced budgets. It doesn't seem that they do. And so what we did earlier in one of the first bill that we as a 113th Congress adopted on the House side was a bill that said to the Senate that if you don't adopt a budget, then you're not going to get paid. And the president could object to it, and it was passed on the House floor, and Harry Reid has now signed it, knowing that he couldn't object to it. And what I find is that the very first step, if we're going to be serious about this, the very first step is people have got to lay out their plans, put them on the table, and let's sit down, let the American people compare them, let the conferees for the budget compare them, and sit down and see where we can find agreement. That's the only way we're going to do this. And so the bill this week that Tom Price has offered up would require the president offer his plan for balancing the budget. Now, the president, unlike the Senate, has offered budgets. He hasn't always done them on time, and he missed the deadline on yesterday for submitting his budget. But he has. You have to give him credit for at least proposing one,
right?
And as according to law, and he promises that he will get his to us, even though it is late. But the bottom line is this bill, I think, is a second very important step in requiring the president to put his plan on the table so the American people can see it, and so that we can work together with common purpose towards balancing our budget in this country. And that's what we have to do.
So what are the consequences if indeed President Obama does not put a budget together and submit it in a timely manner?
Well, it does not have the no plan, no pay provision. Although that might be something that might be a good amendment, because seriously, that is that's an important part of the no budget, no pay for the senators. But this would have the force of law that would require him to do that, and if he violated it, then he would be in violation of the law, and he would, obviously, you have courts that are there to enforce violations of the law, but there's not a prescribed penalty as you
right.
might traditionally think of it, and but I do think that it would be a very useful tool to have in terms of requiring the president to put his plan on the table and allow the Congress and the president to work with common purpose towards balancing our budget.
Well, I think it was it'll certainly at least start an open and candid dialogue, right?
Absolutely, and one of the things, we on the House side have been criticized for not messaging better, and I think that's I think that criticism is fair, but I do think one of the things that we have done in the last 2 years is we on our side have really we have talked with a pretty I think narrow focus over the last 2 years about we really have highlighted these budget issues and highlighted balancing budget and cutting spending, and we've been accused of being obstructionists. Good grief! Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we've produced a tremendous amount of legislation. That's what we do. We produce legislation, we send to the Senate, and the only ones that have been stonewalling really have been the members of the U.S. Senate. And the president has failed to lead on these issues. We've taken positions that are not, I think most people would agree, are not particularly popular,
right,
when it comes to reforming these programs and trying to get us on a path to fiscal sustainability. But anyway, this is part of that process, and I think it's very important and very worthy.
Common Sense News Time coming up on 7:21. This is the John Frederick Show. We're with Virginia 5th District Republican Congressman Robert Hurt. Congressman, sequestration. There's a growing feeling that there might be a majority right now in the House that are saying, you know what, why don't we just go ahead with this sequestration? You got some conservatives away on the right who are saying, you know what, it might be the only way we can get some spending cuts for real. You've got many liberals in Congress that would love to see defense cut down the size. What's happening with that?
Well, I'd ask your listeners to remember back to how we got here. Remember, this was part of the August, a year ago, August debt ceiling debate, and in exchange for raising the debt ceiling, there were several components. A balanced budget amendment was one of them. Spending reforms was part of it. Budget reform was part of it. And then the big deal was the $1.2 trillion across the board cuts. It's a penalty to be imposed if we, as a Congress, could not reorder that same value in form of the super committee, and that was their job. But the idea
right.
being that if we fail to do it, and don't forget this, because the president wants everybody to forget this. Harry Reid wants everybody to forget this. This was their baby. This was their baby.
Exactly.
They worked on the agreement and came to it together. So where we are now is here we are. The penalty time came up on January 1st, and so what happened as a part of the fiscal cliff negotiations? They punted it. I did not vote for that, and one of the reasons was because I really was deeply offended by the fact that we were going to push that penalty period off. And let me make it clear. I don't think the sequestration cuts are good. They're bad for Virginia. Virginia has got had over 200 years of playing a very important role in defending this nation, and these cuts will be very bad for our defense of our country, and I do believe that, and I believe that it'll be bad for Virginia. But the only thing that could be worse would be for us not to live up to the bargain, not live up to the promise that we made August a year ago that said we were going to make these cuts. So now it is so offensive to hear Harry Reid and President Obama distance themselves from it and act like it wasn't their idea to begin with, and then also say that we're going to renegotiate and that we're not going to make these cuts, but we're instead going to come up with new revenue. That is not at all how this got started. And if we're going to be talking about deficit reduction now, we need to be talking about new territory, not fighting old battles that were decided a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
So I mean, to summarize what you're saying basically is, if you go with a Reed plan, it's almost like kicking the can further down the road on steroids, because you're not.
John, yeah, it's exactly what Washington has done for the last 20, 30, 40 years. That is never take responsibility, always avoid consequences, and we just can't keep doing it. We can't keep doing it. Our children don't deserve this. I mean, they don't deserve what we've given them. They certainly don't deserve to have to, inherit even more irresponsible and reckless policy. And at some point you just have to say enough is enough. And I hope that we can avoid the sequestration. Let's be clear about something. We on the House side have offered a plan.
Right.
We offered a plan back in the summertime.
Right.
And it should have been adopted. We should have, the Senate should have come up with a plan. The president should have come up with a plan. Everybody should have sat around the table and said, this is what we can agree on. But, the Senate never responded to the bill that we sent on sequestration back in the summertime. And President Obama has failed to demonstrate any real leadership on the issue. And so at some point, these mechanisms that we put into place as Congress and as a president need to have consequences. And I think the American people understand that.
Representative Hurt, would it be fair to say that for at least your viewpoint right now, not bailing on sequestration is a line in the sand for you?
Yes, I can say that without hesitation. I mean, I just think that it's at some point you and that's not to say that we shouldn't fix it, and we've offered to fix it, and I hope very much that we're able to continue to work in the next 30, 45 days to really get down to changing it and reordering those cuts. But at the end of the day, the cuts, regardless of how they are prioritized, have got to be made.
Common Sense News Time 6:26. This is the John Frederick Show. We're with 5th District Republican Congressman Representative Robert Hurt. We only got a couple minutes. House is looking at a new immigration plan. We've got some people saying that there's a number of House members meeting behind closed doors, trying to find some compromise. Where do you stand on this?
I have a little bit of a wait-and-see approach to it. I'd like to see what the senators. We don't even really know what their. It's so much like Washington. People come out with their press release, but where's the bill? I need to read a bill, and that's how we operate in Congress. It's the way we should operate. We don't always operate this way, but let's see the bill. The devil's in the details. It's always in the details. So let's see what you're talking about. The principles that and the president has done the same thing. He's talked about it, but he hadn't done anything. So, and that's not to say that it's not a very real issue and that it's not that something won't be produced, but it's hard to gauge exactly where we are until we are able to see the words on the page. And I'm not aware. I'm not a part of whatever may or may not be going on in the House. I don't know what meetings may be taking place on immigration, but I'm guided by these principles. Being first, and I think Rubio has Mark Rubio, Senator Rubio has articulated these two principles. And I think they're very, very important. Number one is there's no reason to even talk about quote immigration reform unless we secure the borders. There just really isn't, because if we're going to quote fix it and then have the problem continue, it's really a exercise in futility. are going to deal with the 11 million people that are here, and we're going to recognize that it is far too expensive and undoable and unmanageable to be able to deport all of the people that are here illegally. If that's something that we want to make a policy, then one thing is for sure: it violates a sense of fairness. It violates the rule of law, in my mind, to in any way give these people any advantage over those who have gone through the process and are going through the process legally. It's not right to give them an unfair advantage over those who have played by the rules and abided by our sovereign rule of law. And so those are the things that I'll be thinking. Those are sort of the principles that I think will be guiding me. It is a problem. We've got to deal with it. And then the other thing for my constituents, as important as anything, is the migrant worker, the guest worker legal reform. Good grief! I mean, that is the H-2A and the H-2B programs, which provide most of the agricultural workers and other sorts of workers for farmers in my district. Good grief! Those programs are broken. And this administration has got a horrendous record in terms of making those programs not work the way they should work. And so I do hope that if we're going to deal with immigration reform, that guest worker, those programs will be a part of the mix.
And we hate to interrupt, Congressman. We are up against news time. We thank you so much, Congressman Robert Hurt from the 5th District of Virginia in the U.S. Congress, also on the Financial Services Committee, doing a great job up there. And we thank you again for your time, Congressman. Thanks so much.
John, thank you so much.